Hey everybody, today we're going to be building off the resume that we made in the last video using HTML and CSS. So what we'll do today is add JavaScript components, and for that we'll be using a JavaScript framework called Vue.js. Vue is a progressive framework for building user interfaces, and that basically means that you can implement Vue in just one part of your application rather than having to rewrite all of the JavaScript. So let's take a look at what I've added here. If you look in the HTML, you can see we have these weird looking tags, and these are actually called mustache syntax. um, so if we look down at the JavaScript, we can see that corresponds to my name dot first. So we see down here, my name, and then first Jonas, and that puts that into our file here. And we can actually edit that, and we see that if we give it a second, it will update it. And this is basically just a lot easier than having to hunt down every single element inside of the HTML because it is all formatted in a neater way where you would expect to find everything. So the first thing that we need to do to achieve this is come down here. I've added this script tag. Uh, and basically, this is telling the HTML that we're going to be using a modified version of JavaScript, and all of the documentation for that can be found here at this link. All right, so let's go ahead and add our own Vue elements. So I'm going to go ahead and change the school part here. So what I've done is I've added an ID to my H3 tag here called my school, and for now, it says Penn State, but I can go ahead and use that mustache syntax and say my school. And then we're going to need to come down here and add another element called my school. And since we're going to have a few elements inside of that, we are going to use the curly braces, and we'll say our school is Penn State. And let's see, we will say our year is junior and GPA, and then major. Okay, so now let's look at what's going on here. So we have our my school in here, and since I did not add the exact location of what I wanted, it actually put every single element inside of here. So it lists my school, my year, my GPA, and my major all in here. So if we want to specifically target our school, then we want to say my school dot school. And we basically just follow that same uh, syntax for this, add the mustaches, the two curly braces there, and we'll say my school dot year. Give it a second, and now it says junior in there. And we'll just repeat that process for these. Okay, now you can see that I've added all of the tags there, targeting my school and the specific component that I wanted of that. And we can see that everything has updated. We can apply these principles to the entire document and have pretty much everything that was inside of our HTML now inside of our JavaScript file. And one thing that I did forget to mention in the beginning was that since last project, I encompassed everything inside of a containing div that I've just called container here. And what that does is it just allows me to target the element container inside of my Vue JavaScript here. and I can edit all of the data, anything that's labeled inside of that is inside of the container. And you can go ahead and split that up, but for us, it's really unnecessary since we're just doing pretty much one thing to the entire document. So one last thing that I wanted to point out is I've changed the URL to where we have our YouTube video of me explaining this resume being made. And I've added what's called an argument here to the href tag. And I said vbind colon href, and then I've just wrote URL inside of there. So down here in our JavaScript, we can see that I have this labeled as URL. And then when I go ahead and release this new video, I'll change this to the new video link. So from here, you should be able to implement Vue components into your resume if you're following along from last video. And if you need to reference this code pen, it'll be linked down in the description below. Thank you for watching. My name is Jonas, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.